and welcome to episode 50 of the Knitty Heather podcast. My name is Heather and I'm actually coming to you from the beautiful plains of Cheyenne, Wyoming today. My husband Tom and I have some property here and we're going to be spending quite a bit of the summer here at this home, and so we're really looking forward to it. I absolutely am loving it so far. Please bear with me as I work with my new space and new setup, and I hope everything turns out okay. This is my podcast where I talk all about my knitting projects and everything I have on the needles. I also love to share about beautiful makers, all of you lovely bag makers, pattern designers, yarn dyers, accessory makers, any of you lovely folks that add to the beauty of our fiber world. If you are a new viewer, welcome. I hope you enjoy yourself. And if you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate it. If you would like to follow me, I am at Knitty Heather on Instagram, and I would love to connect with you there. All of the patterns and yarn and accessories I talk about will be listed and linked in the description box below. Today is Monday, July 11th, 2022, and I have a lot to tell you about, so let's get started. Today I am wearing my Snuggle Down cowl by Jules Hill. This was made out of a kit from Legacy Fiber Arts. It was their burgundy kit, and it came with 7 minis ranging from kind of this cream all the way through the burgundy colors into kind of a dark gray. There were 7 little 20-gram minis on their steel toes, 75-25 base, and I held it together with their cloud mohair in the colorway pewter, kind of a really pretty gray color that sort of held it all together. It's a very simple cowl pattern with a little bit of a slip stitch round every so often. And it was so much fun and really lovely to make. It's so warm and comfortable. I really love it. It is definitely one of the most wearable cowls that I have ever made. And I just love the beautiful fading of all these colors in this burgundy colorway. Check out the Snuggle Down cowl by Jules Hill. And if you haven't checked out Legacy Fiber Arts either, they are a beautiful mother-daughter indie dyer team that make incredible yarn. Check out Legacy Fiber Arts as well. Today I am also wearing my Paris socks by Mina Phillip, the knitting expat. This was the second pattern she released as part of her Around the World in 8 Socks collection in 2021. It features a beautiful floral pattern. The yarn I used was from Lolo Did It's Downton Abbey Club in the colorways Trophy Rose and Garden Show. They were knit cuff down with 20 rounds of a 2x2 rib, a German short row heel, and a rounded toe. Now I'd like to share a little bit of happy mail with you. I was able to place a little bit of an order with Susan of Desert Vista Dye Works. I was able to get a 30% off coupon for completing the first quarter of her monthly sock club, and I ordered 4 skeins of yarn from her and got 30% off. Very generous of her, and I got this order a couple weeks ago, so let me show you what I got. I got a few skeins on her DK base this time, which I was super excited about. First is flip-flops. Kind of these 3 really bright, beautiful summery colors. Again, this is on her DK 75-25 Superwash Merino nylon base. This is called Happy Birthday Cupcake. Almost looks very Valentine's-y to me, but I saw it knit up in the picture on her website and it was absolutely beautiful. Next is from her Villains collection. This is also on DK. It's called the Sea Zombody, inspired by Ursula the Sea Witch, of course. Really love these purple and teals. That's going to knit up really beautifully. All these will be self-striping. And then last but not least, she does her what she calls Boo in June sale, where she has a lot of her fall and Halloween colorways on sale in June in preparation for the fall. And I got Reese's Zombody cups, inspired by one of my very favorite candies, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. And of course it will have the beautiful zombie stripes when it is knit up. This is on her Viso 75-25 fingering base. And this will be really fun to knit up in the fall as well. So I'm really pleased to be adding these 4 skeins of Desert Vista Dye Works to my Desert Vista Dye Works collection, and I cannot wait to knit them up very soon. I'm really looking forward to especially trying her DK base for some thicker sleeping socks. Check out Desert Vista Dye Works. Now on to my finished objects. My first finished object is my June pair of socks for the 8th annual Desert Vista Dye Works monthly sock club. I used the colorway Zombody Doodle Dandy, and the pattern I used is called the Road Trip Socks by Amanda Ironmonger, also known as Dog Mom Knits, and I really love how these turned out. There's a little bit of a swirly stripe with just some pearl bumps. And as you can see, I was able to get these to match up pretty well. I did an afterthought heel. I knit both of these toe up with about 10 rounds of a 2x2 rib on the top for the cuff, and then an afterthought heel. I really love these patriotic colors with the zombie stripes. And I think that this pattern looks really great with self-striping yarn. Just a little bit more than vanilla, but not too complicated at all. And I was very pleased to have these done by the 4th of July. And it will be a really nice pair of socks to add to my Desert Vista Dye Works collection. This was the Road Trip Socks by Amanda Ironmonger, Dog Mom Knits, knit up in Desert Vista Dye Works, her Viso 7525 base in the colorway Zombody Doodle Dandy. Next, I'd like to tell you about my latest pair from the Cozy Knitter. This was from her July 2021 Yarn of the Month Club. It is called A Beautiful Mess. She is another one of those absolutely gorgeous self-striping dyers. This colorway came with the beautiful cranberry pink mini for the toes, heels, and cuffs. I did these 2 at a time, toe up, with my wedge toe. I did a fish lips kiss heel, and then about 12 rounds of a 2x2 rib for the cuff. The pattern I followed is called the Groovy Socks by Carolyn Hegwer, and I really enjoyed it. Let's see if I can kind of twist it so you can see what it looks like a little bit more. It's a very fun, just kind of zigzaggy, and then there's a little bit of a eyelet, but very zigzaggy. Really shows off a self-striping yarn very nicely. I was thrilled to be able to try this pattern for the first time. And I think this was a really nice colorway to use this pattern with. This colorway is called A Beautiful Mess. And like I said, it was the July 2021 colorway from her Yarn of the Month Club. Really, really pleased with how these turned out. I was able to get them to match up fairly nicely. I didn't make them super long this time, but there were quite a few different colors of stripes. And I wanted to put the cranberry color for the cuff where it belongs in the sequence of the stripes, just because I think that makes it look a little more complete. And I'm really thrilled with how this turned out. I will definitely try this pattern again with another skein of self-striping yarn. I think it's absolutely perfect for that. Let me know if you have any other suggestions for good patterns of self-striping yarn, or if you have tried these groovy socks. I know I saw quite a few socks on Ravelry that were knit up in this pattern, so I'd be curious to know if you have knit these, what you thought about them. This is the Groovy Socks by Carolyn Hegwer, knit up in A Beautiful Mess by the Cozy Knitter. Next up is a pair of socks that I'm knitting from my Yarnable collection. This colorway is called Summer Vibes, and I believe it was the July 2021 colorway from the Yarnable box by Hypnotic Yarn. Look at how beautifully that knit up. I love all these beautiful blue colors. I knit the Sock Camp Picnic socks by Kay Litton, the Crazy Sock Lady. And I think it turned out nicely. It probably would look a little bit better with a less busy colorway or even a solid color, but I'm happy with how these turned out. I did knit these with about 16 rounds of a 2x2 rib. I knit the pattern around the whole leg of the sock. She called for a slip stitch, heel flap, and gusset, And then I just continued with the pattern across the top of the foot before I did the rounded toe that she calls for in all of her patterns. And I'm really happy with how these turned out. They are a really nice fitting sock because this pattern almost has like a ribbed texture. So it does fit very comfortably, very nicely around the foot and the ankle. And I'm pleased to have knit this pattern again. This is the second time I've knit this pattern. The first time was in a self-striping yarn. This one is obviously a little bit more of a variegated yarn. So I am excited to maybe try it again in a solid or just very lightly tonal color. I think would make the stitch pattern pop out a little bit better. This is the Sock Camp Picnic pattern by Kay Litton, the Crazy Sock Lady, knit up in Summer Vibes by Hypnotic Yarn from her July 2021 Yarnable box. Next, I would like to tell you about a pair of sleeping socks I have been working on. This is actually out of a sport weight yarn, but I kind of fused together a sport weight and a DK pattern. This stitch pattern was inspired by the Toe Up Lace Socks by Stacey Perry of Very Pink Knits. It is a sport weight pattern, and so I followed the stitch pattern. I don't know how well you can see some beautiful, beautiful eyelets with kind of some columns of some knitting through the back loops. Really, really lovely. I loved working this pattern. It was so much fun. So I did the stitch pattern from Stacey's socks, and I also fused it with the DK Weight Vanilla Socks by Kay Litton, the Crazy Sock Lady. I used her slip stitch heel flap and gusset, and the fact that I knit it from the cuff down. I also followed from her pattern. I also followed the toe from her DK sock pattern with the stitch count. The yarn I used is Hawthorne Sport by Knit Picks in the colorway Rose City. I believe they've discontinued this yarn. I purchased this yarn to knit this stitch pattern a long time ago, and I'm so happy that I finally was able to do it, but I don't believe that they are making this yarn anymore, but it is closer to a DK weight yarn anyway. It's a pretty plump sport weight. I believe it was an 80/20 superwash merino nylon base, so it was very, very plump, and I just love how this colorway knit up. So pretty, and I think it's perfect with these beautiful, almost rose-like stitches. Very happy with how these turned out. They were a lot of fun to knit, and I might translate this stitch pattern into a fingering weight pair of socks. I think would be really fun as well. Let me know in the comments below, have you ever kind of fused two patterns together? I know a lot of times you can throw in whatever cuff or heel or toe you want with the sock, but I'm wondering, how creative have you ever been and kind of mixing and matching different sock patterns and stitch patterns? Let me know what you've done before. I'd love to hear your sock knitting adventures. This is kind of a mixture of the Toe Up Lace Socks by Stacey Perry of Very Pink Knits and the DK Weight Vanilla Socks by Kay Litton, the Crazy Sock Lady. Knit up in Knit Picks Hawthorne Sport in the colorway Rose City. Next, I'd like to tell you about a hat I recently finished. This is called the Snow Day Hat by Jerry Birch. It is a bulky weight hat. And the yarn I used was from Schmutzerella Yarns out of Everett, Washington. She dyed this special colorway called Maker's Mercantile for one of her local yarn stores called Maker's Mercantile. I think it was a special trunk show colorway that she dyed up a few years ago. How pretty are all these colors? They're so rich and vibrant. Love all these jewel tones. I added this black pom-pom from Jess Gass Crochet and Design. Super fun, and I think it really works well on this hat. Again, this was a bulky weight pattern, very basic from the brim up. I did 2x2 rib for the brim, worked the body of the hat, and then just did some classic crown decreases to close up the top. A very easy pattern to follow, a very quick knit because it is in a bulky weight yarn. Would highly recommend this for any gift knitting that you are starting to plan. Really worked out very nicely. And I believe this was a free pattern on Ravelry as well. This is a snap-on pom-pom, so I can wash this hat a little bit easier without having to get the pom-pom wet. Really love these snap-on pom-poms they have these days. I believe I used a size 10 needle for this pattern, and it was just such a quick, pleasurable knit. I really love how it turned out. I could not be more pleased with how this colorway knit up. Super gorgeous. I am so happy with this hat. This is the Snow Day hat by Jerry Birch, knit up in Schmutzerella on her Oomph bulky base in the colorway Maker's Mercantile. My last finished object I have to show you is my Happiness Cowl by Vera Valimaki. This was part of my brioche project that I did with a lot of my friends in the Love and Stitches membership. We were challenging ourselves with a little bit more difficult brioche pattern that has some increases and decreases. And I have been looking at this pattern for so long, and I was very pleased to be able to knit it up. As you can see, it's a very wide loop. It will wrap twice around my neck and be nice and cozy warm. It is a DK weight pattern, so it did knit up fairly quickly, and it was helpful to have a little bit of a chunkier yarn to see all the increases and decreases that I was doing. It's always helpful to be able to see your stitches a little bit better. So there were 3 colors, and they each worked with each other in their own section. The colors I used were Lolo Did It Simple DK in Amazed, this dark maroonish color, Wildwood Flower, kind of my speckled, and then from Rainy Day Fiber Company, which is now Trilogy Yarns, I did her DK base in Teal, We Meet Again. And they just really went very nicely together. I love this combination. And they worked really nicely in this beautiful cowl. And it is reversible. Here's what it looks like on the wrong side, where the Wildwood Flower color is a little bit more prominent. I think that's really fun as well. So it's gonna look really nice all twisted up and be super smushy and cozy, and I cannot wait to start wearing it when the fall and winter weather starts. This is the Happiness Cowl by Vera Valimaki, knit in DK yarn from Lolo Did It and Rainy Day Fiber Company, which is now Trilogy Yarns. Now on to my works in progress. First, I'd like to tell you about my July socks for the 8th annual Desert Vista Dye Works monthly sock club. I have them in my summer sock camp bag from 2021 by Stolen Minutes. I have my Desert Vista Dye Works pin, as well as my summer sock camp pin from last year that matches the logo on this bag. The pattern I am doing is the Zigzagular Socks by Susie White Prairie Girl Knits, and it's the first time I've done this with a self-striping. I did it on a speckled yarn before, but look at how pretty these little zigzags are turning out on one side of the foot, and then on the second sock I will do it on the other side. I am doing these one at a time, magic loop, toe up, and this is ChiaoGoo red lace with a 32-inch cord. My progress keeper is a cowgirl boot that Susan from Desert Vista Dye Works included in that last order I made from her. Very sweet of her. I think she noticed that I had it shipped to Wyoming and she thought, ooh, I should send her a cowgirl, which is very nice of her. There's a better look. So this is just a really pretty cabled zigzag. I do use a cable needle, and the colorway is called Cancer the Crab in honor of my astrological sign. My birthday is this month, so I am a Cancer. And here it is with this beautiful blue mini from one of her 2019 collections, I believe, that I am going to use for the toe. I will use it for an afterthought heel. I marked for my afterthought heel right there. But I think I'm gonna just keep knitting up in the main yarn for the cuff this time. I don't think I'm going to change back to the mini for the cuff. I think I will just use it for the toes and heels this time. But I'm really thrilled with how this is looking with this pattern and yarn combination. Super pretty. And I highly recommend this pattern if you are looking for something that has a little bit of interest, but still plenty of vanilla knitting as well. This is the Zigzagular Socks by Susie White Prairie Girl Knits, knit up in Desert Vista Dye Works Viso 7525 base in the colorway Cancer the Crab. Next, I'd like to tell you about my newest socks from the Cozy Knitter. I have them in my bumblebee bag from MLD Threads on Etsy, and I have a cute little bumblebee progress keeper for a zipper pull. This is one of the most gorgeous colorways I think I ever received from her. This was from her August 2021 Yarn of the Month Club, and it is called Regency. Here is the yarn in the cake, and then it came with this beautiful cream mini. So here is the progress on my first sock. I am doing this one at a time as well. I am just doing the very simple String of Lights pattern by Sock Witchery. And look at these beautiful stripes. Can you even believe how gorgeous? Just a lighter and a darker version of all these green, yellow, pink, and blue. So gorgeous. And I think this cream really sets them off. It's not often that she does a mini that's not the color of one of the stripes. And so when she does, it really does add something to the sock set. I really enjoy it. This breakfast bagel progress keeper is from Suker Miniatures. I am knitting these on a 9-inch circular ChiaoGoo red lace. And I just have a marker for the beginning of my round and then another marker that tells me when to stop the patterning on the front. And then here's another look at the stitch pattern really quick. I think it's looking really nice. I've never done this with the self-striping yarn, and I think it looks excellent. I just wanted something with a little more interest that wasn't totally plain vanilla, and the String of Lights pattern really does fit that bill. This is the String of Lights pattern, knit toe up on a 9-inch circular, knit up in the colorway Regency by the Cozy Knitter from her August 2021 Yarn of the Month Club. Next, I'd like to tell you about my yarnable socks I have on the needles. I am using DPNs, so I have this cute little Grease needle cozy with my Grease project bag from Fate's Thread. I got these a couple years ago and really love it. Grease is one of my very favorite movies. The colorway is called Sweet and Sour. Here it is in the cake. Really pretty oranges and reds. And here is the progress on my sock so far. This I am also doing one at a time. I've been into just doing one at a time lately. And the pattern I am doing is Kaye Cables by Sierra of All Knit Up Designs. And my little strawberry popsicle progress keeper is from Sweet Cherry on Etsy. I am just about finished decreasing the gusset stitches. I have a few more rounds of decreases to do. I did a slip stitch heel flap and then about 20 rounds of a 2x2 rib for the cuff. And then this is also kind of a ribbed pattern. So this will fit really nicely. This is the second time I have knit this pattern. And if you haven't heard of All Knit Up Designs, she has a lot of really classic looking, just very nice sock patterns. I highly suggest you check her out. I am using my Radiant DPNs from Knit Picks. I like to use all kinds of different sock knitting methods, especially during summer sock camp, and so I thought it would be fun to do this with some DPNs. And here's one more look. You can see the yarn is kind of micro striping a little bit with the lighter and the darker oranges with some kind of red speckles in there. I really am pleased with how this looks. And this is a very simple 4-round repeat that does involve a little bit of a twisted stitch. It doesn't need a cable needle. It is a free pattern on Ravelry. And like I said, definitely check out All Knit Up Designs because she's got a lot of good stuff out there. This is the ChiaoGoo pattern by Sierra of All Knit Up Designs, knit up in Sweet and Sour by Hypnotic Yarn from her August 2021 Yarnable box. Next up is actually another pair of socks by Hypnotic Yarn. I decided to switch my Yarnable subscription from her fingering weight to her DK base, just because I've been really into knitting some DK socks and I really love her yarn. I thought it would be a fun way to switch things up. So this is my first pair of Yarnable socks by Hypnotic Yarn on her DK base, which I believe is an 85-15 superwash merino nylon. This colorway is called Picnic Basket. Here's my cute rocket pop stitch marker that I got in actually one of the Yarnable boxes from last summer. Here's a good shot of those beautiful red tones. Again, this colorway is called Picnic Basket. It is her July 2022 colorway. And I have just finished the leg of the sock. I am following Kay Litton, the Crazy Sock Lady's DK weight vanilla sock pattern. So I finished the leg and now I need to start the slip stitch heel flap on the back. I'm knitting these one at a time, cuff down on magic loop. I have it in this cute sock project bag from Zigzag Stitches on Etsy. And I really love this base. If you are ever thinking about signing up for Yarnable, definitely consider her DK option because it is so cozy and beautiful. So I'm excited to start working on the heel flap for this guy, and then hopefully sock number 1 will be done very soon and I can have another lovely comfy pair of sleeping socks that are DK weight. This is the DK weight vanilla sock pattern by Kay Litton, the Crazy Sock Lady, knit up in the colorway Picnic Basket by Hypnotic Yarn from her July 2022 Yarnable box. My last sock I have to tell you about is my cast on for Sock Week. This week is Sock Week, hosted by Natalie of Knitty Natty, the Love and Stitches podcast. She always does a special knit along every summer, and you are just supposed to knit one sock. It's called Sock Week and it's so much fun. This is the second time I will have participated, and I know a lot of my friends in the Love and Stitches membership are also participating in Sock Week. So good luck everybody and have fun. Enjoy your lovely sock knitting. I am just gonna try to do one shorty pair of socks this year since I have so many other socks on the needles. But here is what I chose to knit. I'll show you the yarn first. This is called Time for Tea. It is a very special sock set by Sweet Mountain Yarn. Here's the label. I actually purchased this last time I was in Wyoming. I went to Cowgirl Yarn in Laramie and picked this sock set up. I think I even showed it on the podcast a while ago. But this is a special, I thought it'd be a good, now that I'm in Wyoming for a little bit, it'd be a nice cast on for Sock Week. This is out of Cody, Wyoming, this company. And it has been such a pleasure to work with. Here's the main color with this beautiful plummy mini. I have it in my special Sock Week bag by Stitching Plaza. She tries to kind of have a shark theme for Sock Week. And I think this fabric was so cute. Again, this is from Stitching Plaza on Etsy. She has a whole bunch of other beautiful project bags too, so definitely check her out. I believe her name is Georgianne. How cute is that? And so here is my progress. I've only knit the cuff and I knit it out of the main yarn. I am using my Addi Flexi Flips for this sock. And my little camper progress keeper is from my friend Julie, Burlap Handmade. And I really love how this is knitting up so far. I did 15 rounds of a 2x2 rib for the cuff. And then I will do about 15 more rounds for the leg, just for a nice little shorty length. And then I think I will do a fish lips kiss or a shadow wrap heel. I haven't quite decided. in the contrasting mini. I'll continue with the foot in the main color, and then I'll do the toe again with the mini as well. I think I'll definitely have enough yarn to do that. I'm gonna maybe try to get 2 pairs out of this yarn, just the one sock for sock week, but as far as knitting this up, since I'm only doing shorties, I think I can easily get 2 pairs of socks. So I might knit one for myself and one for my mom, we will see. But I'm really enjoying this beautiful colorway. This is a vanilla shorty sock knit cuff down on Addi Flexi Flips, knit up in Time for Tea by Sweet Mountain Yarn. Last up is a languishing whip that I've actually had on the needles for about a year now. This is my Snarkometer shawl by Casapinka. This was a mystery knit along that she did last summer, and in fact I just got an email. I think she is about getting ready to start her new mystery knit along for this summer, which I'm kind of tempted to do, although I really need to make some progress on this first. Like I say, this is called the Snarkometer. It is a rectangular shawl with 4 colors. I'm not exactly sure where I was last time I talked about this, but I did put a progress keeper right here. This is a cinnamon roll from Sweet Cherry on Etsy. And I'm really loving all these fun different stitch patterns, stitch combinations with the different yarns. And I just need to keep working on it. So right now I am just starting with these 2 colors. I can tell you my colors really quick. This is Perseverance by A Little Knitty on their diamond base. This is from Curl Up and Dye. It's called Faded Rose Petal. This is called Blood Moon by Uru Yarns on their Sugared Sock Stellina base. And then this is Kern's Hand Painted by Knit Picks on their Capretta Superwash base. So I'm really enjoying these colors and how they're interacting together. And I just need to keep making progress. I just finished this last section, and I'm just starting a section with kind of some bricks in this Perseverance color. My Faded Rose Petal is sort of the overall background color, this light pink. And I think it's gonna look really nice. It's just so much fun to knit with different sections and watching the yarns interact with each other. This is the Snarkometer shawl by Casapinka, her 2021 mystery knit along. Well, I think that's about all I have for you this episode. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with me. I really appreciate it. Please don't forget to hit that like button and consider subscribing. That would mean so much to me. I really appreciate all the support of this little channel. And as always, let me know if you have any thoughts or questions or feedback for the podcast. You are more than welcome to leave a comment down below or message me on Instagram. I am at Knitty Heather on Instagram, and I would absolutely love to hear from you and interact with you. But until next time, be well, be kind, and happy knitting. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.